What's up, everybody? It's been a minute. It's been a long day. I've worked, taken care of a child, and got a short workout in. Look at this hair. Okay, just so you guys know, this is my natural color. Like, it's so like a light brown, but look at how red it gets back in the back. And I have a hair appointment on Tuesday. Hallelujah. So this should look way better, but the light is like shining down on it. Real life. So let's get back to what I wanted to talk about today. You can see my workout shoes. Oh, I can't get that one. Oh well. There it is. Okay. Oh, wanted to talk about postpartum stuff. I've been wanting to sit down with like perfect hair and look good, but it's been a struggle lately with the workouts, trying to get back into the groove. So I thought, let's just do it real. Let's just no makeup, end of the day. It's almost 9 o'clock at night. Let's just do it now. So my sisters used a book called Baby Wise for their kids' sleep, feed, wake cycles. So I knew when I had Jonah that that's what I was going to do, and Josh was on board with that. The good thing about that is that when we were in the hospital, they got us onto the schedule naturally, because you have to feed your baby like every 3 hours. And they were like on it, like 3 hours, 2.5 to 3 hours. They were in your room making sure you were feeding that baby. So by the time we got home, we were feeding Jonah every 2.5 to 3 hours. So we started out on a great schedule. The day that we left the hospital, Josh had gone down to get the car seat, and they were cleaning out our room. The hospital was full, and I was packing up and ready to go. And I said, sure, come on in. You can take everything apart, because they were getting ready to move somebody else in there. And Jonah started to cry. And I didn't know what to do, because I knew it was close to feeding him, and I was trying to breastfeed, but I couldn't do it then because we were getting ready to leave and go home. And I started to panic. So I walked out into the hallway and asked a nurse to come help me. And the nurse that was taking care of me came right in, and I was bawling, and I'm like, I don't know what to do, and we're getting ready to leave, and I panicked. And so she took him and swaddled him tight, as those nurses do really well. And he settled down, and he was fine. He fell asleep on the car ride home. And then when we got home, my family that had come up from Orlando had met us at the car, and I had been crying in the car, and Josh had asked me, are you okay? And I said, no, I'm just excited. I can't believe we have him. And while that was true, there was a part of me that's like, I can't believe I have him. Like, what am I going to do now? Like, there is no manual for this. And I was freaking out inside. And then when I opened the car door and my family was there, they saw that I was crying. They're like, are you okay? Like, are you excited? And I'm like, yes, I'm excited. But I don't know if my mom saw between the lines or what, but there was excitement, but there was fear. And from there, it just got worse and worse and worse and worse. I was exhausted. I feared his cries. I feared lack of sleep. I feared putting him to sleep. I feared my life changing. I was breathing, but I was completely paralyzed by the transition of becoming a mother and how to take care of this, what should be a bundle of joy after 10 hard years of trying to get pregnant. Dealing with the guilt of feeling that way, on top of all the other emotions I was feeling, was causing issues of its own as well. I cried a lot. I couldn't overcome the stress I was feeling. I was frightened when the sun would go down. I would do okay during the day and I think, okay, I got this. But then the sun would start to go down and the panic and the fear, I did not like nighttime. I didn't. And I knew I was going to have to get up in the night, even though Josh was with me. He was with me for 3 weeks. I started to fear Jonah's nursery. And I hated that. I thought, this nursery is beautiful. And Jonah is he was a good baby. I didn't know it at the time. But now looking back, I knew he was a great baby and everybody was telling me that. I feared him. I feared putting him down. I feared getting him back to sleep after I fed him in the night. I feared me getting back to sleep. It was definitely hormonal. Oh, gosh. On the second night, I was such a mess that my mom banned me from the nursery and told Josh, you got to take care of the baby all night and let Sandy sleep, because I was a crying mess. And I don't think I could really pinpoint why I was crying. But I would just hold Jonah and I'd cry and cry and cry and cry. And I wasn't afraid of, I wasn't afraid of his crying. Like, I knew he was going to cry, obviously, but it was just something about, maybe it was the fact that I didn't know what his cries meant. And everybody would say, you'll learn, you'll learn, you'll learn. Well, like, I needed to know that. I'm a planner, people. I need to know these things. But that night when my mom came in, she was like, I'm going to leave. You gotta like put on your grown-up panties, girl, and like, let's do this. Let's do this. Josh would play Hillsong United's Prince of Peace softly all night long in the nursery. So Jonah would sleep to it. That way, when I would get up, or he would get up, when I would go in there, I was in there. And it was just a reminder to me that God knew the pain that I was feeling, the suffering I was going through, and that he was there. And sitting in their rocking chair in the nursery, trying to feed him at 3 o'clock in the morning when I was exhausted. And I wondered, is anybody else up in the morning doing this? Which I'm sure a bajillion people were. You feel so alone. And I remember thinking, this is all I've got, God. It's just me in this moment. And I have no idea how to get through it. Just minute by minute. And that song would just bring tears to my eyes. And if you don't know the lyrics, you should look it up. But the song would bring tears to my eyes. And then during the day, we would play Hillsong lullabies. And if you don't know what that is, it's basically like piano music to some of the Hillsong worship songs. And I remember we were going to our first appointment to Jonah's pediatrician. And Josh had it playing in the car because I needed it. And I kept thinking, I know these songs, but I cannot for the life of me think of what any of these lyrics are. And I thought, am I really that messed up that I don't even know the lyrics? It was crazy. And now we can play them, the lullabies, and I know the lyrics. So it's the craziest thing to me that there's some sort of like block going on that you can't even think of lyrics to songs that you know. It's crazy. At the 6-week mark, I was still struggling. So it wasn't like depression, like I didn't have any thoughts of harming Jonah or anything like that. I loved him. I felt like I had a hard time connecting with him, but it also wasn't the baby blues. Like the baby blues should have been like 2 or 3 weeks and that was it. So this was a little bit more than that, but it wasn't postpartum depression. And I had no problem talking to my doctor about what's going on. So I walked in at 6 weeks with Jonah and she said, "How are you?" And I'm like, I don't know what's going on. I'm like such a mess. And she was like, "Talk to me." And I said, "I think I am mourning my past life. And I'm just having a hard time transitioning." I knew that transitioning was going to be the hardest thing I did. And I was struggling to transition and let go of the past and find joy in this new life and this new journey we were getting ready to take. And she's like, "Sandy, you have been married 18 years with no kids. 10 of those years you struggled with getting pregnant, which ultimately led you to do IVF. You finally get pregnant and you have to go through a C-section." And she's like, "You already are on all those hormones from IVF." And she's like, "You've done everything you wanted to do on your own before kids. And now you've got to take care of a human 24/7. And you're not 25 doing it." And she's like, "For sure, some of this is normal." She's like, "That's why postpartum is 12 weeks. And she's like, "You're only at week 6. And I'm like, "Could this really go on for 6 more weeks?" And she's like, "That's why women take 3 months off of work." And I'm like, this is terrible. And I was like, "Did you take any medication?" Because I knew she had kids. And she was like, "I almost did." And she's like, "Do you think you're going to need something?" And I said, I don't know what to do." And I said, "I just can't seem to get over the ledge. And it's driving me crazy that I can't get my act together." And she said, "The problem is if I give you something, it's not going to kick in for like 2 weeks. And I was like, "What? That's like torture." And, but she's like, "I'll put in a prescription for you just in case you want to do it, but you don't have to pick it up." And I said, "Okay." And so after that, I had gone to my husband's office, which I hadn't been to, since I had Jonah, and they had redone the offices. And so I had packed enough things for Jonah and enough formula, that we headed over to his office. It was lunchtime, and I ended up spending most of the afternoon there, chatting with people, seeing people. They wanted to see Jonah. They were loving on us, loving on Jonah. And by the time we got home, Josh was asking me about the appointment, and I told him what she said. And I said, "But you know what? This afternoon was like so life-giving. It was like a breath of fresh air, getting out, talking, and not being like a hermit crab in my cave." And I said, "I think that's what I need. I think I just need to get out." And I had a fear of like leaving the house, not like anything would happen to Jonah, that kind of fear, but just the packing, the getting us out to the car, getting 2 of us out of the car safely and into a store safely, and then getting us back into the car safely, and then getting into the house safely. There's just a lot of that kind of anxiety and fear that came into play. So it was easier to not try than to try, if that makes sense. And I just had to try little bits, like I would do a Walmart grocery pickup rather than going inside and fearing that he would cry. Like, now I think about, I'm like, what's the worst he can do? Like, cry? All babies cry. It's not like he has a terrible cry, and he's not a crier anyway. So you let him cry. Go give him a pacifier or a bottle or something. Like, go home. Like, no big deal. But I would do little things, and I'd go pick up a grocery order. I'd come home. One time I needed to go to the library where it's quiet, to like renew my library card. And I took him with me, and I did that and came home. Just little things like that. And there were several people who came and saw us. We're introverts. We're both introverts, so we're not great at inviting people over, and we're not great at connecting with people to like go out. So the fact that people reached out to us and wanted to come see us, wanted to come meet Jonah, was very healing for me. And I loved it. Like, I welcomed the people to our house. It wasn't like, oh, I'm an introvert and I just want to stay in my own little box. I was craving it. So it was something within me that needed it and found healing in it. And then, and the other thing that's so funny about even all of this is that 3 weeks in, there was a date night for employees at my husband's office. He works at a church. And so it was for the married couples. And so someone had reserved tickets for us, or I don't know how it was because I was pregnant and having a baby. But we went at 3 weeks, and everybody was shocked to see me. And they're like, you left Jonah? You left Jonah? And I was like, inside, I was like, yeah. Am I not supposed to want to leave him? Like, it was really odd. Like, I had no problem leaving him with the babysitter. No problem. And then my mom had texted me and was like, oh, I bet you're so excited to go home and see him. You probably got butterflies. And I did not. I could have stayed out. I needed the break. Mental break. It was a mental break I needed. I wish I could have stayed out longer. I love him. He's a great baby. I was just trying to become a mom. And then 4 weeks in, there was a women's event at our church. And I left Jonah home with Josh. Well, I went and I got there, and so many people were like, you left Jonah home? You didn't bring him and check him into childcare? And I was like, no. Like, do most women struggle with leaving their children? Like, I don't know. I just didn't struggle with that, and I don't. To this day, I don't struggle with that. So that was interesting to me that people reacted to me that way. And then at 8 weeks, one of my sisters was coming to visit. And when she got here, I noticed that there was 2 people walking up the sidewalk, and it was her, and then it was my mom. And I was so excited that she had surprised me by bringing my mom. And Josh and I had dental appointments that we couldn't cancel, otherwise we would have to wait like a couple of months to go. And so she was going to come with us, but at this point it's like, why are you bringing 4 people and a baby to the dental office? Like, that doesn't make sense. So they stayed home with Jonah, and Josh and I ran to go have a dental cleaning. And when we came home, Jonah was asleep in the swing that we had, like on the highest level. So he was like going so fast. And I was like, oh my gosh. And she's like, we got to dying laughing so much because we stuck him in that thing, put it on a high speed, and he was out. And I was like, why haven't I tried that? Like, I stick him in it, I stick it on low. So it's like, and she said he was like giggling and having a good time, and then out he went. And I'm like, I don't know, like my mind just didn't work in certain ways and I couldn't figure it out. But they said I had done some of the strangest, like not strange, just hadn't thought of things, you know? And for whatever reason, when they came, I don't know if it was just coincidence that I was getting over the postpartum issues or if they just kind of brought new life into it, but it all kind of happened at the same time. I felt it lift, and I thought, okay, I got this. And I remember asking Josh, I'm like, is this how you feel? Like it's hard, and you know, you might get tired, but it's just like, this is what you got to do kind of a thing. And he's like, yeah, like it's fun, it's hard, but yeah, you just got to do what you got to do. And I'm like, I get it. And there were so many times where we would talk about that and I didn't get it. And I wanted to, I would cry and he would just see this tears streaming down my face and say, you're doing so good. You're being a great mom. Like, you've got this. And I just couldn't see that I had it at all. And so I would pray and ask God to take it from me, take it from me, take it from me, take it from me. But I knew it was being required of me. And this was the new path and journey that God had me on and that God has me on. I'm still learning. I'm still growing. Sometimes I think I know, and Josh would say this, that I'm way too hard on myself. But I'm trying to do the best that I can. And right now I'm balancing mom life and working from home and trying to get my butt back into shape, and balancing all of that is hard and it can be stressful and cause me to have anxious thoughts. And that's one area that I'm working on trying to clear up, because there's always going to be stuff that's going to be out of whack. I have to be more flexible, and that's what mom life is the ultimate flexibility, which is really hard for my personality. But I hope this helps somebody out there who's struggling, or maybe you're even in it right now and you're like, yes, that's exactly it. Hopefully that brings some comfort in knowing that there's other people who have gone through it. I think I mentioned that I had a C-section, and I wasn't one of those mamas who regretted having a C-section or wished I could have done it naturally. I did not care. I do not feel like I missed out on anything. I never felt one Braxton Hicks contraction, and I never felt one contraction. In fact, when they wheeled me in to have the C-section, actually I walked in, right before I walked in, she's like, do you feel that? The nurse, do you feel that? And I said, no, what? Like, I couldn't even think of what she was talking about. She's like, you're having a contraction. She pointed to the screen. She's like, you're having a contraction. And I was like, what? Didn't feel one thing. So I do not feel like I missed out on anything. And if I had done it, I guess naturally, I would have had an epidural. Give me the epidural. Oh, did you guys struggle with any postpartum issues? Whether it was baby blues, depression, and if you had multiples, like twins right off the bat, how was that? And if you had multiples after you had one, like maybe you have one child and then you had twins, how was that? Or if you had when you had your second child, how was your, I guess, your hormones and your postpartum? after that. Just curious. But again, hopefully this helps. I know some of you have asked about it and wanted to do a video on it, and I was trying to go for maybe something a little more classier than this, but sometimes you just gotta be real. So that's what you got. All right, until next time.